Hello everyone and welcome to card 10 of my Christmas series for this year. I'm so excited to bring you this card. I've been waiting so long. I absolutely love this one. I love all the dimension, and this was my very first circle card that I have ever created, and I'm super thrilled with it and I can't wait to get it started and show you how I made it. Some of the products that I used to create this adorable card are the winter bouquet dies from Honeybee. These were some of the very first Honeybee items that I've ever purchased, and I absolutely love them. I really wanted to try to do something dimensional, and I was super thrilled to get these. The next item I used to help create this card was the stacked circles from Mama Elephant, and I cut out my actual card panel with some slate gray cardstock, and I used some 100-pound Simon Says cardstock for my actual card base. And then I'm also using this stamp set from Honeybee, Christmas Blessings. I just loved all of these little sentiments. I also did some pre-die cutting of all of the little shapes that I wanted to use on my cards. I just went through my stash of scraps and used those to cut out my little images. The next thing I wanted to do was I wanted to add something to the background of this panel. I didn't want it just to be a flat gray. I felt like that would maybe, I know you don't really see all of it, but I didn't want it just to be plain. So I took this stencil from Fawn, the Snowfall stencil. It came out in their most recent release. And I'm going to tape my panel down to my surface here, and I'm just going to add some snowflakes to the background. Again, you won't see a whole lot of them once I get all of the die cuts on, but I really like the way that this looks. It wasn't just a blank gray background. It really added to the card. And I'm just using some Hero Arts Unicorn Pigment ink to do my ink blending here. And I really like the way this turned out. I like it on top of this gray. I thought about using some paste or some like Nuvo paste. I thought maybe that would be a really nice touch, but I just wanted to do the ink blending instead. Since I've had so much going on already, I didn't want to take up too much time with the Nuvo paste. Getting that all ink blended. And again, I wasn't super concerned at how perfect it was, and it turned out great. I absolutely love it. And then I'm just going to get my station cleaned up here, and then I'm going to take my heat gun and just run it over top of this panel. Because it is a pigment ink, it takes a little bit longer for it to dry. And I wanted to make sure it was nice and dry, and I did set it off to the side to completely finish drying. Get that all heated up and nice and dry, and it looks great. Next, I'm going to take my card panel here, and I'm going to put it inside of my MISTI so I can get ready to stamp my sentiment. And I wanted to make sure I had it up the right way so that whenever I place it on my card, it's not upside down. And I'm going to take this transparency grid I have from Simon, and I'm going to use it to help line up the sentiment. I couldn't decide on which one I wanted to use, and I ended up going with the Merry Christmas one because I felt it was kind of circular in shape and it kind of went with the whole design here. And don't mind my head, I just wanted to get it nice and lined up. And I really like this transparency grid. It really helps get things lined up. Now that I have the stamp exactly where I want it, I'm going to take my anti-static powder tool and I'm going to run it all over the area that I'm going to stamp so that my embossing powder doesn't travel where I don't want it. I'm going to be using my Versamark ink to stamp my image. It's a nice sticky ink for embossing powder, and I'm going to be using some Brutus Monroe Alabaster White embossing powder. It's a really nice bright white, and I really think it stands out against all of these rich colors that I'm going to be using. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We did. Had some family over. Nothing too crazy, and had some really great turkey and some great laughs as well. I got all of my Christmas decorations up. My house looks so cozy and warm. I was so excited to have everything up. Just makes me feel just cozy and warm, and you know, you get a fire going in the fireplace, and it's just great. I'm going to use my heat gun to heat up the embossing powder and melt it in place. And I really like this sentiment. I think it just goes perfectly with this card. Nice and round. And I just love embossing powder. I just think it's so magical. I've talked about this 100 times, but I think it's great. I really like the shine that it gives to a card, and it turns out great. Just kind of let it cool down a little bit before I wipe it off with a dry cloth to get all that excess embossing powder and anti-static off of there. And I wanted to make sure that I had the snow upright and the sentiment upright so that it matched with the scallops on the card, and I did. I didn't think about it until I was almost too late, but it turns out it works out great. So I want to apologize here. I'm not sure what happened to my my film, but what I'm doing here is I'm just taking all of these die cuts and I'm just adding some Copic markers to them just to give them some depth and dimension. And I did that to the poinsettias. I just used some red colors for the flowers, the flower portions, and then I just used some yellows for the centers. And on the pine cones, I'm just using a nice dark brown. You could use any colors that you want, choose anything that you'd like. It's just to add a little bit of dimension to these plain die cuts. They're pretty flat, there's not really a whole lot to them, and it really adds some dimension to the cards. And I just wanted to show you in real time here what I was doing and the difference between them. And then I'm going to speed up the video here, and it didn't really take me too long. It was a pretty quick process. I wasn't trying to be super fancy with it. I wasn't trying to be too detailed, and I just wanted to get some color onto these die cuts. I really like the way this turns out. I think Nicole Sfor did a card, I'm not sure if it was last year or the year before. I will link it up in an iCard up above. And she used the same set, but she used the candle as well. And she made a beautiful card with that. And she did add some Copic coloring to her die cuts as well, and it turned out great. And like I said, I'm not trying to go too crazy, and I'm not trying to add a ton of detail. I just want to add something to them so they're not so flat. Really makes, I think, them pop. Same with the pine boughs here. I wasn't trying to be too particular. I wasn't really too concerned how they looked. Most of them will be covered up because they're going to be layered on top of each other to look like a wreath. And I just want to, again, add some color to them. Just going through and adding just some simple color. And I did the same thing to the holly leaves. This time I just added some veining to them. I do believe that they are embossed just a little bit, but you can't really see that embossing too much. So I just wanted to go over all of these again just to add some depth and dimension to them. I wasn't trying to be too particular about, blending or anything like that, and I really think they turned out great. I'm really thinking about using this die set again on another card. I really like it a lot. And I am going to hand deliver this card because it is so dimensional. I didn't want to have to make a special envelope for it, and I wanted to, I just think it would be so much better just to hand deliver in person. It's a beautiful piece, and I really like it. So I'm just taking some of my pine boughs and lining out where I want my wreath to go. And I'm just alternating the dark and the light colored green boughs and just getting them a nice circular shape. And I'm going to be using my multimedia mat to glue these down. And I'm only going to glue like a portion of them so they can still, like, if I wanted to bend up the branches or anything like that, just to make it a little more dimensional, I can do that. And again, this card didn't take me too much time. The longest process was the actual die cutting of everything, and that's why I left that part out of the video. It was the longest process, just, rolling the die cutting machine back and forth, but in the end, it really helped make this card go a whole lot faster, and it turned out exactly how I imagined it in my mind, and I was so thrilled with it. And I'm just going to take these smaller boughs, and I'm just going to start filling them in around the wreath here, just to kind of fill it out a little bit more, to make it look more like a Christmas wreath. And I loved adding the little snowflakes. It makes me think of it like hanging on a window, and you're looking through the window, and you can see the snowfall outside. It's kind of where I was going in my mind with it, and I loved it. And I was super thrilled when I posted this card once I had it finished on my Instagram that Honeybee actually commented, and they posted it on their Instagram as well. So I was, giggling like a little kid when I saw that. It made me feel really, really good to know that they enjoyed it too. Now I'm just going to assemble the poinsettias here, just add a little bit of multi-glue to them, and I'm just bending up the edges a little bit just to give them, again, some more dimension. And I decided to go with 2 different shades of red here. Again, these are just scraps I found inside of my little scrap box, and it's just a bunch of different colors. You can use any colors that you wanted to, really. Poinsettias come in a couple of different colors, but I really like the traditional red color ones. And I wanted to use just 3 poinsettias. 3 is a nice number. It's more pleasing to the eye. And then I'm just going around and adding in my other greens, just to see where I want them placed, and then I'll actually start gluing them in place. And I really love this. Turns out so great. I love all the dimension, and I'm going to use some 3M foam tape to pop up my poinsettias, again, just to add to that dimension. I was really going for all of the dimension in this card. This is, you know, almost an entirely dimension cut, or die cut card, excuse me. And this is probably one of the first ones I think I've ever done, other than the snowman card at the beginning of my series. This is only the second completely die cut card that I've ever made, and I just adore it. I'm gonna go around and add some more items in here. I was gonna try to move that pine cone, but it didn't want to move. I had it glued down pretty good, but in the end I liked where it was placed. I attached that smaller poinsettia flat down, and then I popped up the larger one over top of it. And again, just kind of filling in to make it look like a nice Christmas wreath. And adding that Copic coloring to those leaves and the pine boughs really added to the overall look. Next, I'm going to take all of the little red berries and I'm going to attach them to the little twigs that I placed earlier. And eventually I'm going to add some glossy accents to these to really give them that rounded look, to make them look like berries. I like adding this extra red in here because there's lots of green and all that gray. I just wanted to make sure I had a lot of red. Because again, I really like the traditional Christmas colors. I've tried before to venture out of the, you know, the traditional Christmas colors, but I just find it so hard for me. I just love the, you know, the reds, the greens, you know, the nice warm colors. Get all of these berries attached. And then we can go in and add some details. I wanted to add just one more pine cone just to kind of even it out. I felt like I needed something else on the card. So I took this last pine cone and I trimmed it down a little bit to fit in behind those other ones, and it really kind of evened out the look. I'm going to take some Tombow Mono multi-glue and attach my panel to my card base, making sure that I have it going up the right way and everything is nice and straight. So much fun. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my aqua shimmer pen and I'm going to load up on the shimmer. My shimmer pen wasn't working quite right to start with, so I squeezed it out and then it started coming out like a ton. And it was like shimmer overload. And at first I was a little concerned, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go with it. I'm just going to cover everything. Everything is getting shimmer. I was thinking of like, you know, like a frosty morning. If this wreath was hanging on your front door and you wake up and it's covered in all of that shimmery, sparkly, you know, frost. Added the same to the berries here. I really wanted them to look like they were frosted berries. And then I'm going to take some Nuvo crystal drops in Simply White and just add a few more dots here and there, like snowflakes, just to give it a little bit more character and dimension. And then the last thing I'm going to do is take my glossy accents and I'm going to go right over top of the berries just to give them the nice rounded shape. And my pieces weren't quite sticking, so I added just a little bit of glue to make sure they were nice and held down. And again, the glossy accents really add to this. And again, it turns out when it first comes out, it's a little bit cloudy, but as it dries, it clears out and they really, really look great, especially with all that glitter underneath them. And that will finish up this card. I really hope you guys enjoyed this card as much as I do. It is one of my absolute favorites for this season, and I feel like I really need to use these die cuts again. They were so much fun and so easy to do. And if you really enjoyed this card as much as I did, hit the like button as well as the subscribe so you don't miss out on any more videos here on my channel. The next card, which will be card 11, is going to be posted today as well, so look out for that, just to get caught up on some days that I've missed due to some technical issues. So again, I hope you all have a fabulous day. Hope you have a fantastic week, and I'll see you guys again here real soon here on my channel. Have a great one. Bye!